Hello and welcome to The Secret of My Success. This is the podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Curran. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I am joined by a very dear friend, Joseph Tolbert. It's like I am not even out of the gate and I'm already moved. This man is so essential to my life. Joseph is the epitome of an entrepreneur. Whether it's running his cleaning company, offering wisdom through his Bible-based training offerings, or building his newest project, which is an investment venture where he not only strives to create wealth for himself and his clients, he strives to teach people how to create wealth for themselves. Joseph is always looking for ways to improve life for his family, his friends, and his community. He sows seeds of greatness wherever he goes. Whether consciously or unconsciously, Joseph has always challenged me to examine my underlying assumptions about life. I know that this conversation with Joseph is going to be absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. So, Joseph, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So I know a ton about you. We've been friends for, 15 years now, I think.
Wow, that's a long time.
I know it is. And like we both know that we plan on keeping the friendship alive for quite a
Absolutely,
bit longer.
100%.
So, to help our audience get to know a little bit about you, as we are having a conversation about taking a look at what it means to live a fulfilling life, why don't you help people understand who you are, kind of where you came from, and then we'll get into the good stuff.
Well, thank you so much. You know, when you first started talking, I said she gonna make me cry. Even before you said, because we vibe like that, and I appreciate who you are and how you are. You actually play a role in my success as well. I remember one time, and then I'll answer your question. I remember one time you said to me, something to the effect of, as smart as you are, you should be more successful. And you have to have people in your life who can push you, you know. And so I never forget that, what you said, and I'll never will forget when you told me that you got to know who you are. You're changing lives, you're blessing people, like you're doing it, and you had to receive that. And the last thing you said was, how can you be building wealth and teaching people things, and you eat so much McDonald's? I still tell people that story because I haven't eaten McDonald's now for, I can't tell you how many years.
It's been a while.
But yeah, those are three things that right off the bat I remember about you that's made me who I am too, and so I appreciate that. So I'm the oldest of 10 kids from Detroit, Michigan. My mom and dad had 10 children in 13 years, which is really crazy. And so, being the oldest, it taught me a lot about leadership, but I also hated the responsibility. And so, and I was I don't know, a bad kid, if you want to call it that. So I got in trouble all the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And right around, I was 18, and I said, I'm 18 and I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm grown. And so I went to the military, because I was trying to go to the Air Force. I heard that going to the Air Force was the easiest branch to be in. They said it was like being in college, but you didn't have to go to class. And so I went and knocked on the Air Force door, like rung the doorbell, and they didn't come to the door. The Navy people came to the door. So I went to the Navy. Like whoever answered the door is probably where I would have went. That's how my life had no direction to it. And so I almost got kicked out of the Navy before being in it, like twice, in boot camp. And so there was a part in there, because people ask me stuff now. I tell people I learned in boot camp I can do anything. That's where I learned it. I got in trouble so much in boot camp that they finally came to me and said, you don't want to be in the military. You must not want to be here. And so they were like, you got to go home. And I thought to myself, I cannot go home and tell my mom I messed up something else. Like you're not supposed to be able to mess up the military. And so they made us do this punished this called mini moles. And I found out recently that MOS stood for motivations, like a mini motivation exercise, and it was grueling. 3 6-minute exercises that were the craziest thing that you ever had to do. But the way I'm wired, as we were walking to the point to do the exercises, a young lady opened the door, held it open for all, I don't know, 25 people who were getting kicked out. And the guy who was the boss leading us, the company commander, said that he said she passed this yesterday, and she had to be 4 feet tall and skinny as a twig. But I'm grateful that he said it, because as hard as it was to keep going, I kept remembering she did this yesterday, and if she can do this, I can do this. And I cried real tears and was praying, watching guys bigger than me drop and quit. And I made it. I did it. And I remember that part right there made me feel like I can do anything. I know I can do anything. And it didn't have anything to do with size. It didn't have anything to do with muscles. It had to do with the sheer will to not quit. And again, I'm grateful that the guy said that little girl did it yesterday, and I came through it. I went to the got in much more trouble as life went on, but I made it through that point, and that was one of the things that it taught me, and it's carried me through even now.
Really super powerful. Yeah, like how many people do you hear of get kicked out during boot camp? And I'm sure that there are
Never
quite a
heard of
few people.
it.
No, never?
I'd never heard of it, but it must happen because, like I said, there were 14 guys behind me walking in line, so we were all getting kicked out for stuff. But I didn't know you could get kicked out in boot camp.
Isn't that funny? Because that's a really interesting context. Like you think you can't get kicked out of boot camp, but when I think of boot camp, I have never been in the military, y'all.
Right.
When I think of boot camp, I think they're kicking your ass, trying to like burn that stuff out of you. So if they're not kicking anybody else out, then it must not be as bad as everybody says.
It's no, they do exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Because once I got my mind together, I remember saying to myself, their job is to make me quit. My job is to not quit. And I remember
Got
that was a conscious thought. But yeah, I mean, I was doing stupid stuff, sneaking out, talking to girls, sneaking out to the vending machine at nighttime. Just foolishness.
Mm, really great.
Yeah.
And fortunate that you got the lesson because
Yeah,
here you are.
absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I, for one, am grateful. That's for sure because I know that you actually share that story fairly often when you're doing some of your trainings,
Hmm.
and because I mean it is an essential part. You had to make a really serious decision in that
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
in
I
order to
did not
get
want to quit again, or just show my mom you can't do this.
right, right. So then what? I mean, here you are. You finally are in the Navy. You're making it happen, and how did that shift things for you?
Um, I mean, I'm grateful that I made it, but even once I got in the Navy, I still was making horrible choices. You know what? I went to captain's mass quite a bit. Captain's mass is when you get in trouble, instead of going to court, it's called non-judicial punishment. I didn't quite understand it then, but I'm grateful for it now, because the stuff that young people sometimes do out here, they go to court, and they got a little, they'll have a little record, misdemeanors and, stealing, stuff like that. Well, non-judicial punishment meant we didn't have to go to court, but we had to go see the captain of the base. And they would take your money away. They would take your rank away. That happened to me. They would make you stay in the restriction barracks, kind of like their jail, but not really jail. But the restriction barracks, you had to check in at a certain time, go straight to lunch, come right back. They inspected your uniforms a lot. They did drug tests. So I went through all of that, just again, making stupid choices. But I thank God I was in the military making those choices, not out here in the real world, because it still kind of kept me padded and safe. being under the military or the government's care, if you want to call it that. Um, but I learned a lot, man. I started learning a lot when I first went home from boot camp. My first time taking leave, that was when I really noticed something different. I went home on leave and I came back and I was talking to one of the first class guys and he said, how was your leave? And I was like, it was good. But I was like, man, everybody seemed to have changed so much. And we talked a little bit about it. He said, buddy, they didn't change. You did. You've changed. And so it doesn't feel the same anymore. And so that was my first introduction to that concept. The more that I change, the more that I don't fit in to where I used to be. And I also saw this when I went home. They would try to treat me like I was the same guy. And I knew that I wasn't the same guy, and it still didn't feel right. And so you would go home, and it would be so easy to fall into the old patterns of ways of thinking because people treated you like the old person that you were. And so what that taught me was just to stay away for a longer period of time until I became myself. And even now, when I go home, I don't stay a long time because they still want to treat you like you used to be when you're constantly evolving and becoming somebody new, but they're not there to see it. So they still think you're the same old guy. And and it's a weird place to be. But I tell people, you got to get away long enough to fortify the person you want to be, the person that you're becoming. So when you do go back home to visit, and they come at you with the same old stuff, it doesn't phase you. You don't fall back into your old characteristics because you are genuinely who you are now.
Mm. Which is really true because there's the truism that your income is going to be within 10% of the five people closest to you. Your
Absolutely.
personality, your who you are is a reflection of the people that are around you.
Yes, correct. I take that very, very serious, even now. People think it's, I remember doing a seminar and talking about that very thing. And somebody says, well, it sounds like you're being judgmental and kind of mean. And they were talking about Christianity, me as a Christian, and I said no. I said that's not mean at all. That's me. There's a difference between compassion and sympathy, and everybody wants sympathy, and I don't have any for you. We all have a sad story. We all came from somewhere crappy. Things that happened to our lives that could be the excuse to fail. And I just don't allow that around me. So compassion says, I'll take you to the river. I'll buy I'll buy the fishing rods. I'll buy the worms. I'll pay for lunch, and I'll carve out 8 hours and sit out here with you and teach you how to fish. That's compassion. But they don't want that. They want you to give them a fish. That's sympathy. I'm not giving you a fish. And so I treat my life like that. I'm not letting you in my world just because you're nice, just because you're cool, because we can play basketball or whatever. No. I'm very clear that I will become who I hang around. And so I am very, very, very choosy on who I let in my space. I consciously look for good dads to be around, like it's on purpose. I consciously look for good husbands to be around. I consciously look for people with way more money than me to be around. I seek after people who are better than me. I want to be the worst of the best. I don't want to be the best of the worst. And so absolutely, you become who you hang around, and the people you are around are an indicator of who you are and who you will be. And whether you like it or not, it is a fact. You cannot. I tell people you can't change the science behind becoming who you hang around. You can't change. It's not. You can't. But what you can do is pick people better than you to be around. If I can't change the fact that I'm going to become my environment, what I can do is pick my environment very carefully.
Right. Oh, and the other thing about that, though, and I think the thing that makes it really challenging for most people to get started is it just needs to be a little bit better than where you are. You can't go from zero to millionaire overnight. When we were
Absolutely.
when we were prepping and testing the equipment, we were talking about, an overnight success usually takes about 10, 15 years
Mm-hmm.
of struggle and adjustments because you're learning the skills, you're finding the people, you're making the connections. Because the people that you want to be with where you might be now, you've got to earn the right to be around those people because they're guarding their circle just as much as you should be.
Absolutely. When you were talking, it reminded me of a story. One of my mentors, Buona, I remember he was the very first person I ever asked for investment money from. And at the time, he was losing everything. He said, and it was really cool. I learned a couple of things. He sat me down and said, Joseph, I don't have it right now. He said, my cash flow is very limited. I'm losing the company. I'm losing a house. And he said, but what I can tell you is this. He said, money comes from money. You have to figure out how to get inside of circles you don't belong in. And that probably was the best thing that he could have ever said. I'm kind of glad he didn't have the money because that sent me on a journey to figure out how do I get inside of a person's world that has money when I don't have any and I have no value. And so when you just said you have to earn it, I tell people all the time, you have to create value beyond money for wealthy people to let you in, for successful people to let you in. Because why would they let you in if you're not like them? We gravitate to people that we're like. I'm not like you. I don't have a lot of money, but what I do have in my value is the ability to serve you. What I do have as my value is ability to be the help that you can't find. And I learned how to be valuable to people more successful than me. And it's only a matter of time before they throw that arm up and say, you see this wing right here? Get under here, son. Let me show you something. And so yeah, absolutely. You have to earn it and create a value for yourself that somebody says, I have to have your value next to me. A lady named Amy, who has been an incredible mentor and big sister to me over the years. One time we were talking and she said, Joseph, by the time I was 21, I was the president of my company. I've done so much. I've made millions and millions of dollars. She said, I don't know what to do from here. And I said, hey, Amy, do you mind if I share something? I know that I'm just little old me, but do you mind if I offer a thought? She said, absolutely, go ahead. And so I said, I think maybe the reason you're feeling this way, because the time in your life right now, you're supposed to be taking all of that success and pouring it into people like me and others and helping them grow to their next space, creating cohorts and things of that nature. And then she said this to me. She said, Joseph, when it comes to money, we are light years apart. She said, but there's something that you have that I need next to me. She said, I'm going to give you a space of office in my building so I can work next to you and we'll figure out how to work together and create some success together. But that's what I'm talking about. I created a value for who I was in her life beyond money, beyond the fact that I'm not like you. And she wanted it next to her. And so yeah, you got to earn your way in there.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I have always loved about you is your tenacity and your resourcefulness because you're not the kind of person, I don't think ever, who has just been sitting back and going, well, I really don't know what to do next, so I'm just going to hang out. You are always actively pursuing some kind of way to learn what you need to learn, meet who you need to meet, and it's always been extraordinary to watch you swim in those circles. And every time I attend any of your events up in Jacksonville, I see people that you introduced me to 10 years ago, and I'm meeting brand new people that I've never met before. And there's such a camaraderie and a cohesiveness to it. It's really a remarkable and a beautiful thing.
Awesome. I appreciate that. You always say such nice stuff.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
You know, when I met you, it was because I was networking and I had lived in Jacksonville for a few years. And I remember at the time I was dabbling in my, creating a speaking business. And so I was doing some networking and I was meeting some of the movers and shakers in Jacksonville. And I remember meeting Amy, but I also remember meeting Norm. And Norm is the one who introduced the two of us. And I
Yeah.
remember Norm saying, "You really got to meet this guy." And sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts, when Norm introduced me to you, I'm looking across the table. And this was one of the first times where I was like, I need to get to know this guy. I remember hearing in my head, like, who the hell is this person? Like, why in the world do I need to know him? And hearing myself making those judgments and casting those stones is what actually had me stop and say, there's something here that I need to know a little bit more about. Though that is absolutely one of the pivotal moments in my life, because it constantly challenging assumptions and pursuing what I want, and always taking a look at, like, well, okay, so why haven't I gotten there yet? What could be in the way that I don't know that I'm tripping over? So I thank you absolutely for that experience.
No, that's what's up. It's funny to hear you say that. Um, it was exciting meeting you. I knew that you were great even then. I always tell you, you're smarter than I will ever be. 9 out of 10 of our conversations, you teach me a new word, that I don't know the definition of. And so that's always been a really cool thing. And you've always challenged me with who I am. Just, I remember when I met the group of people that Buona. I was in network marketing for a while, and when I met those guys, I remember my friend introduced me to them. He said, "You got to come see this. You know how network marketers do. You got to come see this." So he saw it, and then he said, "Joseph, you got to come see this, because that's what they tell you. Call your friends." And so I went to that office and I saw it, and I remember thinking, I'm doing this if it's legal, because just like what you were saying about judging, for up until then, every time I saw one of those type of things, I'm not doing that. But this time when I saw it and those voices came, I'm not doing this. I was like, but maybe you should do something different. And these kids were, I mean, I'm 48 now. When I say kids, it's wild. They were 21, 25, but they were making $30,000 and $40,000 a month. And they had on beautiful suits and ostrich skin shoes and belts and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm doing this. If this is legal, I'm in. And so, talk about pivotal moments. That was a true pivotal moment for me, because it cost $5,000 though to do it. Avon and Mary Kay, they
Yeah.
only cost like what, $199 to start. This thing costs $5K to start, and I didn't have $5,000. And so, interestingly enough, I went out on the porch and I was just looking out, at the cars in the parking lot, all of the BMWs and Mercedes. It's just all of that. And I began to hear the voices in my head, again, growing up in church, I think with inaccurate or incomplete teaching sometimes about money. And all I could hear was, money is the root of all evil, and you can't trust rich people, and all the negative stuff were just chirping in my head about money. And so I'm on this porch of this office, and I got to make a decision. Do I really do this, or do I say, no, this is something I shouldn't mess with? And so I always say, I feel like God was saying back to me, first of all, Joseph, you don't know what the love of money is because you don't have any. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And so just a dialogue with God a little bit, and he said, look, go get the money. You can have it. It's for you. You're supposed to have it. Go get it. Chase it down and go get it. And that's all I needed to kind of hear in myself. I said, okay, I went back in. Now remember, I didn't have the $5,000 to do this. So what I did, I kept showing up though to this office. I put a phone line in this office that I did not have a desk at, and I did not have the money to be in it. So I'm really not in it, but I have a phone line in there. I'm running ads in the newspaper looking for people. And what I didn't know was happening at the time, this Buona, who's my mentor still now, he owned this company. So word was getting around the whole company that this kid keeps showing up. He's running ads in the newspaper and he's answering phone calls here, and he isn't in the company at all. And so finally, two two people from the calls that they were making in decided to join with their $5,000 apiece. And a lady at my church decided to join with her $5,000. I was telling everybody. So then I called the owner of the company and said, hey, I know I'm not in the company yet, but I have, and he was like, is this that guy Joseph that everybody's talking about? And I didn't know that everybody was talking about me. And the interesting thing is they saw me as somebody that was full of fortitude, fight, and passion. And the only thing I'm thinking about is I hope nobody notices that I'm here and I shouldn't be here. And so I know, so wealthy people tend to have a different view, you know. So anyways, he says, absolutely. So my little T90 brain, I knew they weren't going to turn down $15,000. And so he said, yes, you can be in a company. And that's how I got in this company. That if I hadn't have got in this company and learned the things I learned about leading and teaching and speaking and corralling people and framing ideas and closing, I definitely wouldn't be me again if I hadn't have done that. But that conversation with me and God on the porch and the fight that you talked about, just to not sit down and say, because my friend Kenya, maybe I shouldn't say his name, my friend so-and-so,
If you want, I can edit that out.
Yeah, it's fine. He quit because he didn't have the 5,000.
Wow.
We both started going every day, but he stopped. I didn't stop. And so finally I was in there. I'm a part of the company. I'm doing well. 20 years later, Buona is still one of my mentors. And he's helped me make so much money, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I met this guy. He still mentors me till today. We do business together. I'm a founder in one of his companies now, where education and finance company. But anyways, yeah, just I'm not going to sit still and decide I can't do something.
Which is absolutely brilliant, because so many people make that a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's basically, that's the way that we're trained. We are taught that you can't do this until somebody else tells you, okay, now it's okay. Now you've gotten enough. Now you've learned enough. Now you've gotten the certification. You've connected with the right people, whatever. And it's like we're constantly waiting on gatekeepers. And even the people who are telling us to wait on the gatekeepers aren't really there yet. I know that that's another thing that you and I have talked about frequently, is who are you getting advice from? Earlier in the conversation, you were saying that you were seeking good fathers, you were seeking good husbands, you're seeking, good business mentors. And it's really, you need to be careful who you're learning these things from, because not everyone who's giving you advice has the right to give you the advice.
Correct. Buona always said, first of all, before you listen to anybody, do they have the success that you want? Mm-hmm. Secondly, are they willing to teach you how to get the success that they have? If you don't have both of those, I'm not listening to you at all. And again, people think it's rude, they think it's mean, but I take serious where I'm trying to go, and I don't have time to hear your foolishness. One of my pet peeves is this: we're trending these days in financial literacy, because people are realizing that we're broke and it's not okay. So everybody's teaching financial literacy, and I'm thinking to myself, look at this guy teaching this financial literacy class. He's broke. Look at his suit. Look at his shoes. Look at the way he stands. Like, there's nothing about this guy that says he knows anything about how to make money. And so that's one of my pet peeves, that people are out here talking, but they haven't done it. And we're also in a day and age of everybody's a coach, a business coach, a life coach. And I ask people, how many championship rings do you have? Every coach that I know, they used to be players that won championships. And so if you don't have any championship rings, what are you coaching me to? What about your life shows that you have winner in it? You can't coach me to something that you haven't won in your own life, that you don't know how to win. And if you know how to win, but you just haven't, I'm not going to trust you to coach me. So yeah, it's weird out here. It's weird.
Well, I think that, a lot of what you're pointing to is really true. When we're talking about like where do we go, we think that teachers are preordained to teach us, and it's got to come from a particular university or from a particular philosophy
Mm.
before that it's right. But the truth of the matter is, there are myriad coaches out there. If you want to learn how to bake a better banana bread, then you find the best person for that. You don't go to a financial coach to figure out how to bake banana bread. You don't go to you don't go to Juilliard to learn how to build a company. You don't go to Gary Vee to try to figure out how to salsa dance. It's like
Mm-hmm.
each of us has our own areas of specialization. We're good at certain things and we're not good at other things. But like you always say, it's like you look at the fruit, you pay attention to what the person has going on in their life. One of the things that a long time ago, I was taking a course from Adam Urbanski, and one of his favorite sayings was, to a third grader, a fourth grader is a god.
I like that saying.
And it's cool because it does give someone who is in process permission to teach other people. But you also need to understand your lane. Like, you don't put your shingle out there saying that you're going to teach somebody how to be a millionaire if you don't have that sort of proof.
And that's what so many people are doing. They're not honest about who they are. And so, like, when I tell people, I say, look, I think my companies have only ever made about 350 grand in a year. And I'm honest about that. So that's probably all I can teach you how to do. If I knew how to make a half a million, I would have done it already. If I knew how to make a million, I would have done it already. This year is the year that I'm shooting for. But do you give them, but not, again, I've been teaching this. I just taught it the other day at an event. You have to be honest about who you are and where you are, and you can't drink your own Kool-Aid. I had to speak somewhere, and a lady says to me, she says, "Man, I'm sure you're very proud of what you've done and your accomplishments." Da, da, da. And I didn't want to be rude, and I was like, "Well, I mean," I said, "Not quite. Like, I know me. I know what I'm working on. I know where I am. I know what I've done and what I've not done. I know." I said, "I appreciate you saying that." And in that moment, everybody was listening, and so I said, "Well, I'll take a moment and share what I'm saying." And I said, "I appreciate you treating me with the level of honor to honor your perception of who I am and what I've done." I said, "But if I drink that Kool-Aid, I don't go to the next stage of my life. I know what I'm capable of and what I'm good at, and I don't hang my hat on past successes." And so many people do that. They're talking about, like the gentleman who made $1 million with the selling of his book called How to Make $1 Million, and he hadn't made $1 million yet. And I'm not mad at him, but that works. But it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly. Anomaly. It's not actual. Most
Right.
people being fake out here, fake it till you make it. What you really get good at is what you practice. So if you practice faking it, you really get good at faking it and never really making it. And that's what people do. You 5, 10, 15. I remember you said something because you had been in the game longer than I had when I met you, and you said to me, you said, "I've been to all of these seminars. I've been doing all of this stuff." You said, "But I find that I just have notebooks of notes and an amassed knowledge after 10 years or so, and haven't produced any fruit with them." But again, that was you being honest and shifting gears when we met,
Yeah.
versus most people who say, "Oh, I've been a comedian for 15 years. I'm doing it." And it's like, brother, I wouldn't tell anybody you've been doing this for 15 years because you still live in your mama's basement working at AT&T, and you're asking me to pay your cell phone bill. It's like, be honest about who you are so you can go to the next level.
Absolutely. And, I don't pull any punches in this podcast. One of the things that I've shared is this is the third time that I have attempted to start a podcast. And I purchased a book called The Podcast Journal, 50 Days to, from idea to launch. And oh my God, I was so excited. I was going to do the thing. And that was 5 years ago. Um, and the first two times that I did the book, once I got to the part where I was supposed to start calling people and asking for their ideas and opinions, I was like, oh, hell no. I am not going to tell anybody I'm doing this, because then when I don't do it, like, they're going to make fun of me. They're going to ask me about it the next time they see me. And I don't want to be embarrassed because I didn't do the thing. I didn't pull the trigger. And it's just, I still had some work to do to figure out how to be okay with me. And I've done that work, but it's that experience of going at it and then ending up where I ended up had me question deeper and deeper levels of, well, why not? Like, what else is there? What else is in the way? What else can I work on? What else can I move toward? Who am I around that I shouldn't be around, and who am I not around that I need to be around? Like, it's I remember when I was taking a landmark seminar, I was working on the production crew, and one of the seminar leader who was leading that course said to me, Erin, once you finally let go of whatever that story is, then it's all going to fall into place for you. And so I've been on a hunt for that story. And the challenge is, other people can tell me what they see, but it doesn't make a difference until I can see it for myself.
Absolutely correct. And nobody can do that for you. I tell people that all the
Unfortunately.
time. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to see what we see, and until you, I will give you a quick, a little bit of a training wheel, maybe, because
Sure.
somebody said this to me years ago. He said, Joseph, if you don't believe in you, find the person you believe in that believes in you, and believe in them. And for a lot of years, that kept me up, is believing in the people who I knew were great that believed in me. So when I said I can't do that, but Buona said yes you can, I said, well, Buona said I can, I better get it done.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's a little bit of a crutch. But while you're going, it is so okay if you can't believe in you, to find the people that believe in you and believe in them until you believe in you like they do.
I think, like, that's a shade different. I wouldn't call that a crutch, just because crutch has such a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were talking about just a minute ago with the fake it until you make it, someone who doesn't have the ability to discern could hear fake it till you make it and crutch and think that those are the same thing. When you say training wheel, I think that that's really an effective way to look at it, because it's like, if you believe in somebody, like your relationship with Juana, you respect him, you honor him, he has been sowing into you, you have been producing fruit with the lessons that he's been teaching. And so I hear that that's almost like the love of a parent, the guidance of a mentor really sowing into you. And it's like, if I don't have the faith to believe in me, if I don't have the faith to believe in the principle myself, I'm not going to gain the confidence or the conviction or the faith until I can create my own experience. And sometimes it's good to lean on somebody else, not to learn to be there solely, obviously. But I think that we're social creatures, and it really helps, because one of the challenges that I've always had is being so seriously independent that I can't possibly speak Spanish until I can speak it perfectly. I can't possibly do the speaking thing until I've got a full room each and every time. And the gap between where I have been and where I wanted to be was always so great that I would never give myself the space to be in process. So I love what you're saying. I think it's really powerful. if I hear you say you believe in me, and for years you've been telling me how smart I am and how amazing I am and da 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 da, am I going to turn around and look at you and call you a liar?
Right. No, you're not.
No, I'm not, because I respect you so much. And so if that's the only thing that I have, or if that's one of the few things that I have that are going to help me get to where I want to go, honey, use it. Because that is the absolute opposite of like the fake it till you make it. I'm going to publish a book on making $1 million and make $1 million with that. And, it's, we have lost, I think our culture has really lost the importance and the value of the mentor disciple relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think training wheel is the better verbiage for it. I believe that. One a young lady called me probably a week ago, and she says to me, "Hey, how much do you charge to be a mentor?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I don't charge to be a mentor. I said, now I charge to be a coach. I said, but a mentor is something you have to decide I am. A coach is a transaction. I'm not. I'm not real big on coaches anymore. I mean, I still do it. I said, but a mentor, though, I said that's your decision. That's you have to look at me and decide. Joseph has something I want, and then you have to make the decision to pursue that, and in an effort to create value for it, serve me in some capacity. I said that's on you. I said, so when you say you're looking for a mentor, there is no cost to be a mentor. That's a connection, a spiritual connection. That's something that proximity has nothing to do with. You have to make a decision. I said my mentors, they didn't decide they wanted to mentor me. I decided they were my mentors. And I created the space to serve and to create a value for them to say, let me show you something repeatedly. And over the years, we have good relationships where even he'll say friend and mentor, but and I was talking to another young lady, said, I've been looking for a mentor for a long time. I said, yeah. I said, that's first of all, you can't look for a mentor. You got to hear somebody say something and it resonates with you. And you say to yourself, I'm not letting that lady go. I need her around me. I'm not letting it go. I said, so you don't look for a mentor. You listen for a mentor. You watch for a mentor. Watching and looking are two different things. And I said, and I told her, so I said, the second thing, sweetie, is this. I said, you're not ready for a mentor until you're ready. And I told this other young lady who asked me about being her mentor, I said, until you're ready to listen to somebody over what you think is right, you're not ready for a mentor. I said, do you know how many times I've told Warner, I'm going to do it like this? And I think it's genius. And he says, well, sir, that's not genius. And you need to do 1, 2, 3, ABC. And he's not going to spend his millionaire time convincing me that he's right. He's going to tell me the right answer and then go about his business. And so I had to be the type of person that's, one of my claims to fame is not how intelligent I am. My claim to fame is I'm great at listening and following directions. That's all I'm good at. And so when he tells me, don't do this, do it like that, I say, okay. Or he'll say, Joseph, that's the wrong thought. This is the right thought. And I just say, okay. And I make that thought my new thought. A lot of people don't have the capacity to do that. So I meet a young lady and say, hey, the way that you're yelling at your children, that's not going to get them to do anything. That's the wrong thought. The right thought is, whatever, ... If she doesn't know how to say, I see what you're saying, I'm going to make that my new thought, then she's not ready for a mentor. Because I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'm not going to sit, I got other things to do. I said, so this young lady, I said, I don't think you're ready for a mentor, because if you met her, would you do what she told you to do if you thought your answer was better than hers? I said, so a mentor, like you said, a lot of people don't have mentors nowadays. And for the most part, when I meet people that want to work with me, if they don't have a mentor, I don't work with them, because I know what that means is you don't have anybody smarter than you making sure you do the right things. So where do I put my confidence that what we're working on is going to go well when you don't have anybody in your life making sure the things that you do go well? Like there's men and women in my life that make sure what I'm doing is going well. They make sure I'm doing things the right way. They make sure I'm treating people the proper way. They make sure I put my money in good places. And if I didn't have that, oh my goodness, trying to figure it out on your own, that's like husbands who put together a coffee table but won't read the directions. And it's mind blowing that he's got the vision. Think about it. On the box is a picture of the coffee table the way it's supposed to look. That's your vision. That's it. And so now you're living life in that box to get your vision to come to pass. And inside of the box, there's instructions to ensure, to guarantee you that the vision comes to pass the way it's supposed to. And you don't want to read the directions. And you're like, well, I don't know what to do from here. And your wife comes by and says, baby, just read the directions. And they don't want to do that. Or your wife says, just look at the GPS. We're lost. Can't you see? We're not getting where we're supposed to go. And people just have this, I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to take your instruction. And I'm like, I'd rather take your instruction. It carves out so much time from me failing and learning when I could just listen to your instructions to guarantee me to get the vision to come to pass the proper way. So many people don't have mentors today, and you need to get good at following other people's instructions, just listening.
Sage advice.
Sage advice.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, I love the way you say a mentor is somebody that you decide that you are going to follow, you choose to follow. And if you're choosing to follow this person, then you're choosing to believe in their points of view, their ways of managing life, their ways of doing things. And the way that you prove that this is what you believe in, these are the ideas that you espouse, this is your life philosophy, is to actually execute on those things. And so if I'm calling someone a mentor, and yet when they say, well, you're supposed to go left here, and I go, no, I know a shortcut, then I'm really only paying lip service for whatever reason, whether I think I'm going to look good by calling this person a mentor or whatever, because I'm obviously not that interested in the end result because I'm not achieving it.
Correct.
There's no way for me to achieve it. I can stumble across it. I can accidentally discover it. But like you say, the most certain path, the most predictable access is through people who are proven. I love in the book Think and Grow Rich, when Napoleon Hill is talking about when he met Andrew Carnegie. I love the way he says, Andrew Carnegie just says this. He kind of lays it out there on the desk and sort of gently pushes it over to see what Napoleon Hill's reaction is going to be, what his response is going to be. And this is the interview. How Napoleon Hill responds determines whether Andrew Carnegie is going to waste another moment with this person.
Absolutely. And I love that book too, by the way. The problem for most people, the greatest number of populated people, which is the 97%, the middle class and under, is they see that as prideful. They see that as Andrew Carnegie being arrogant. Why do I have to prove anything to him? We're just alike. And I'm like, no, you're not just alike. He's done things that you haven't achieved yet. You're not. And people, they don't know how to do that without feeling insecure. I don't have that. I'm so bent on my destination. I don't care. People say all the time to me, you sound like you kissed Buana's butt. Sound like you're always giving Amy the credit for things. You're always talking about those people who helped you. It just sounds to me like you're just kissing their butt. And my response is, I don't care what you think. My checks are cashing. I don't have to do it alone. You keep doing it alone and not make the money that you're trying to make. You keep doing it alone and keep hitting the walls and the areas that you're hitting. I'll continue to kiss their butts and earn my spot in their life because my checks are cashing. I'm getting where I'm trying to go. I am winning out here. And so, but yeah, so many people would have been so upset about that because I do similar tests. If you ask me to lunch and because you want to pick my brain and then you don't pay for my meal, I don't go out with you anymore because you just wasted my time. We're not friends. We're not buddies. We don't hang out and play ball all day long. You called me because you thought I had an answer for you. And so I do similar things like that. I remember talking on the phone with a young lady, and she called me and asked me. She told me the situation and told me what happened and why the issues were there. And I told her the answer. I said, no, this is all on you. You did this. You messed up here. You should have done it like this. The way you responded, da, da, da. I just gave it to her. She got mad at me and told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I said, then why did you call me? Because I don't call people who I don't think have the answer. You called me because you thought I had the answer. And if you called me thinking I didn't have the answer, that's dishonorable on top of everything else I just told you because you wasted my time. But people have a hard time grasping the humility. And when I say humility is genuinely wrapped in utter confidence. And so the humility that it takes to sit up under someone and to allow them to say to you, show me why I should spend my precious time with you. And be confident enough in yourself to say, I can tell you why, because this is what I bring to the table. People don't like that conversation because they feel like, who are you and why should I? And I tell them, you don't have to. We can part ways and it can be okay. I'm not mad because you don't want to listen to me. I'm just not going to waste my time with you. Go find the guy or the girl that you'll listen to. And again, people just don't get it. So I love that story that you just told because it showed how he was able to be humble enough to understand what was happening and play his role in a scenario so he could get his outcome without any hard feelings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. And one of the things that you're pointing to with this pride conversation, one of the conversations that you and I have had over the years is like there's honor and respect, and familiarity begins to degrade some of the respect. Um, I also think that really not understanding who I am as a person has me not recognize what my boundaries are. And if I'm uncertain about who I am and how I define myself and what my goals are, then I might think that generating $1 million is a really great thing. But then when I go to seek the advice or get the support, I might not be willing to do the hard work, or I might not think that I'm capable, and there could be myriad things in the way when not any of that has anything to do with the person that I'm asking. All of it is over
Absolutely.
here. The other side of it is one of the things Abraham Hicks, who teaches the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I love that Abraham Hicks often says is, so let me get this straight. You think that I'm being selfish when I'm saying that this is who I am and what I want, and you want me to set that aside so that I can behave in a way that makes you happy and satisfied, but that's not selfish.
Absolutely. And people are weird out here. It's similar to that thought. Dating, like I'm engaged now, and it's taken about 7 years to kind of get here. I've been a single dad since my son was 10 months old, and he just turned 7 in February, and I've been engaged for about 7 months. And so, in that time, the few dates that I've been on, or the few relationships that I had or whatever, one of the issues were always a similar thought that what you just said. I would say to the young lady, maybe we need to not be together. Maybe we should stop talking. And I remember one particular girl would always say, how come every time we have an argument, you want to break up? I said, no, it's not that I want to break up because we're having an argument. It's evident that you don't agree with me. And it happens a lot. It's evident that you don't think I know what I'm doing in this leadership space, in this relationship. It's clear to me. I said, but I don't have an ego. If I'm not the guy that you'll listen to, then you need to go find the guy that you'll listen to, because I'm not him. And I'm not mad at you because I'm not him. So you shouldn't be mad at me because I realize I'm not him. So you're mad at me because I'm saying you need to go find the guy that you'll listen to. But you want me to stay in a relationship where I can clearly see that you don't think I'm the guy that you want to listen to. And that's what people do. They want to get mad at you for the decisions you make, but they want you to submit to the decisions they're trying to make. And it's like, it's ludicrous. It's absolute ludicrous. And so and again, the familiarity, the trust, the respect, Bonner taught us that trust and respect equals magic. And it's like when you first meet somebody, the respect is very high because there's no familiarity. You don't trust them a lot because you don't know them, but the respect is high. Even if you think about dating, he's opening your door, he's being kind, letting you pick what plays on the radio. He's not picking his nose and scratching his bottom. The respect is very high. But as he gets to know you, you can say, hey, give me the key to your crib because I left something over there. And he'll give it to you and just say, lock up when you leave because I trust you now. But he doesn't open your door anymore. He's not letting you pick what's on the radio anymore. He's not walking to the door to ring the doorbell. He's blowing a horn in the driveway. The respect went down because the trust and familiarity went up. And Bonnet always taught me, if you can manage to keep trust very high and keep respect very high, which most people cannot do, you will create magic with the people in your life. And a quick side note, even you, the people that know you, one of the things I said I noticed about you very, very, very early on is your respect and your honor is incredibly high. And I know for me, I had to be taught how to be honorable. I was specifically taught by people, by men and women, what a high level of respect and honor was. You just seemed to have it. And that's how I knew you were special. Nobody taught you these honorable actions and this honorable characteristic. That's something of a person. Like I said, I know I need this lady in my life and I want her around me because you don't find this type of honor in people who were not taught it. So that's how I knew there was something special about you. And as we got to know each other, the trust went up, but the respect never went down. And again, another thing that makes you an incredibly special person, that your success as you're building it continually is going to be outstanding.
Thank you. That means so much. Yeah, you have definitely continued to remind me of those aspects of myself, and I appreciate the reflection. Thank you.
Indeed.
Well, I know you and I could talk for hours and hours,
Yes,
and we
ma'am.
are just about at the end of an hour. So, what I'd like to ask is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers or listeners with, a golden nugget or something that you want to circle back to, or what would you like people to walk away from our conversation getting?
Um, if be a person who doesn't spin the narrative when it comes to you. Be honest about who you are and where you are. If you are not enjoying your spouse, say it so you can fix it. If you are not enjoying your children, say it so you can fix it. If you don't enjoy your job, say it so you can fix it. But when you spin the narrative to make it okay, there's nothing in you that feels like I have to fix it because I've told myself it's okay. And I'll give you a very quick example. A person says, I'm shy. And I tell them, you're not shy. You are a scaredy cat. And I said on purpose to hit a nerve. They said, what do you mean I'm a scaredy cat? I said, yes, you are afraid. Fear is in your life and is running rampant. No, I'm not afraid. I'm just shy. I said, when you spin the narrative like that and you use the word shy, it's more palatable to you. And so it doesn't feel as awful as saying, I am afraid. So when you say shy, nothing in you says, I need to work on something and fix it. But when you say, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I'm being a big punk right now, your subconscious self says, I don't like how that sounds. So let's fix it. And you fix it. But when you say, I'm shy, nothing in you says, I need to fix that. And so be honest about who you are and where you are. If you can do that, you'll fix a lot of stuff in your life and you'll see more fruit.
Beautiful. I know I can always count on you for wisdom. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, great. So you have been just an amazing light in this conversation today. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself. And for those of you who are listening and or watching, thank you for spending another hour with us. This is The Secret of My Success. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Curran, and until next time, bye.